and just try and hit all the notes and stuff like that without relying too much on amp gain or effects or anything like that. And it kind of helps with quite a few things actually, especially with the sort of sweeping thing as well. You know, when you don't hear the notes, you know you need to kind of work on it, sort of thing. It's hard, but yeah, you know, you get my point. It just trains you up to sort of become more proficient on the guitar without needing any outside help, sort of thing. So, you know, if you can do that, it definitely helps a lot. Okay, did anyone have any other questions? Yeah.
All the DVDs you did, Blick Library, which one was the hardest to do?
That's an interesting question, because
Technique-based one, or was it learning someone else's songs like Malmsteen or Steve Vai or something like that?
yeah, weirdly enough, the sort of stuff that you mentioned, it's kind of more, because the players are so good and everything's kind of almost metronomic in terms of like being on the beat and being very precise. It's kind of easier learning that stuff and teaching it than it is when, you know, you kind of maybe do like a Learn to Play Slayer DVD and you've got to try and get in, you know, because there is stuff that's theoretically wrong if you were going to look at it from that point of view, what is being played on the record, and also because of the sort of way it's been played, having to try and recreate stuff like that, because it was obviously just a go for it moment in the studio, and it was like, "Reh." But then someone at home wants to learn exactly what they did at that moment. Yeah, that's probably some of the most tricky stuff, I would say. But I mean, the most tricky technique one I had to do was Dream Theater. Having been a sort of massive fan of, you know, John Petrucci for a long time, I'm sort of fairly familiar with his sort of technique and how he plays and stuff. I mean, a lot of his playing has sort of crept into my own, but yeah, definitely some of that stuff is very technically challenging, and to try and get it right on DVD, especially when the backing tracks come in and they're actually faster than the original, which doesn't help. There was oh god, what's the song? It's the riff goes. You know, and there's a solo for that that's like a wah solo that's quite a long. I'm not going to play it now because I've got no idea how it goes. But yeah, that came in at a good 4 or 5 BPM faster than the original, and the original was sort of damn near impossible anyway. So I had to just run with it. So yeah, I did multiple takes of that, and luckily I managed to kind of get one that was passable enough to put on the DVD. But yeah, I feel sorry for anyone else trying to learn that. What was it, Constant Motion? That song? I don't know, any dreams of it? It is, right, yeah, okay. Yeah, so that was pretty challenging. Yeah, I've done a few lessons for like the new stuff on the album. I mean, most of that will go out on. I've got a guitar website, AndyJamesGuitarAcademy.com. So most of the stuff will go out on that, but we'll probably make it so it's available so anyone can kind of buy it if they're interested in learning some of that stuff. Definitely. Cool. Yeah.
So most of the time when you're at home, do you play on your signature series, or do you have like PRS and Gibsons that you like to practice on some stuff?
No, I don't. No, not 10 fucking grand ago. I don't. No, I mean, yeah, this is my main guitar. I play this one, and I've got like a George Lynch Strat, which is sort of the cheap version, but I had like an Evertune put on it, and I changed the bridge pickup. So I play on that guitar quite a lot as well, because it's really nice and it's quite sort of mellow. But the neck, it plays really smooth and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, those two guitars really I play the most. For my band, Wearing Scars, I've got like an EC Evertune 1000 that I play, just because it's permanently in that tuning. And until I get another one of these, then I can leave. When I get the 7-string version of this, I can leave this one in drop B, and then I can use this for pretty much everything. And then I can use the 7-string for all of this kind of stuff. Okay, cool. Yep.
I was just wondering, when you were playing sort of the very fast, intense stuff, how do you manage to stay relaxed and stop sort of tension building up in your right hand?
Well, yeah, that's it's kind of interesting. Really, it's really hard to explain that because there is a certain amount of tension. Like, I mean, I've had this discussion with like guitar players before, because most players that sort of say, look, you know, anything that you learn, you have to play slow and then build it up, and then your physical being or whatever shouldn't change from being slow to being fast, but it's actually a physical impossibility that it can stay the same at a slow tempo because it's really relaxed. Most of the sort of guitar playing that I feel is happening when it's, you know, like you say, fairly intense and fast and stuff like that, you're kind of getting like a twitch motion in the muscle where you're kind of minimising your muscle movement to a very small amount, and in that it kind of creates a kind of twitch, I guess, but you can control it. But it definitely feels more like there's a little bit of tension whenever you play something fast, but it's obviously not something that would be like crippling, because if it was, then I wouldn't be able to play. But there's definitely that creeps into when you play faster stuff than when you're just playing slow and, you know, relaxed and stuff. And also when you play slow, you have a tendency to kind of pull the pick further away from the string. So obviously, sort of scientifically, I suppose the further you pull your pick away, the further you've got to take it back. So when you speed stuff up, you also kind of need that certain amount of tension in your muscle to allow yourself to keep the pick as close to the string as possible. And in that, you will find that you can kind of speed up and kind of break the barrier. Because if you're physically trying to play each note, but at say like 180 BPM, it's going to be really hard to do that. So trying to kind of think of an example really of something. So if I was just going to play like, so like I just play. If you look at my wrist, I'm actually physically playing each note with a motion with the right hand, right? As I kind of speed up, the pick is almost resting against the string, so it's not actually coming off like it would be at a slow tempo. So I'm more pushing through the string like that than I am actually physically trying to play each note. So it's just that's how I try and kind of relax really, is just concentrate on keeping the pick as close to the string as possible. And then keeping it nice and even as well, sort of thing. But there really is, it's kind of that simple. I wish I could try and make it more difficult, but it really isn't. It's just a case of, you know, feeling confident. And also, the other thing with playing fast and stuff like that is to be able to see where you're going. So if it's a new scale or whatever, and you're kind of having difficulty seeing where it goes from just the two strings you've been practicing, then it's normally those transitions that you could practice as well. Because then if you can visualise the whole thing in one go, you can see where you're going, and it, you know, it's like when you're walking down the street. If you can see where you're going, you'll know where, you know, if you're texting, you'll walk into the wall or something, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like that. So being familiar with sort of scale shapes as a whole really does help with playing fast. So yeah, same sort of technique applies. How are we doing for time? Because I don't want to, like, obviously go on till midnight. It's 8:45, is it? What time did we start? 8:30. Yeah, okay, cool. Well, no, well, that's alright, because obviously, you know, one geezer standing on, or sitting on stage talking for an hour and a half, can be pretty boring. Yeah, cool. If anyone got any other questions, or shall I play another song, or another song? Yeah, it's going to be another new one, unfortunately. Is that alright? Do you know any of my old songs?
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't actually play them.
Come on then. I've got the backing tracks here somewhere. I'll get them up.
That's about it.
I only know one bit of War March, which is I know quite a lot of bits of War March, but I don't know them in the order that they're supposed to be played. Like I know there's that. I know what comes next. See, that's where where I start to go. Yeah, so I know certain bits, but and I suppose everyone's favourite bit is it's probably the Steve Vai thing that I nicked. Yeah, so.
I like the chorus cut after you.
Well, that bit or the bit before?
The bit before you just did.
Yeah, that's just kind of like an arpeggio. What is it? Yeah, so it just follows like a G, a kind of A over B flat kind of chord. Yeah, so it takes you up to a D. So yeah, it just follows that chord progression basically. So it's fairly simple theory-wise. It just follows exactly the same chords. It's just a sort of way of playing an arpeggio. It's just kind of like a Ron Thal technique, which I learned from one of his songs. It's probably the only thing I've ever learned of his that I could actually play and then steal for my own playing, and that was one of them. But yeah, it kind of sounds mad because you don't really know like what's going on when you hear it, sort of thing. But it's actually not too difficult. This kind of goes back to my point. What I was saying earlier is trying to come up with stuff that if you can just get the synchronisation, the actual stretching of the lick and stuff isn't too difficult. You know, you try and speed it up or whatever and play it hopefully cleaner than that. But yeah, so that's all I know, sorry. Well, I got to play a little bit of it anyway. Okay, cool, right. Okay, so I'm going to play a new song then. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this will be the last one because I've got 13% on my phone. So, enjoy it. I reckon I'll play one more song. Why not?
Yeah.
You've heard me talk long enough. And then it'll pretty much be the end of the clinic because my battery's going to die. Anybody got any questions before I do that or not? Yeah.
So I know it's with me.
It's all right.
I don't want to spark up too much arguments here, but what is it that the camera does to the other profiling amps do?
It's actually the amp. It's not guesswork.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's like it profiles the real amp and then you've got the real amp, whereas other digital modelling is just someone's idea of what it should sound like.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's my take on it anyway, because having profiled plenty of amps and stuff like that, I'm like, it sounds exactly the same and it also captures the feel of it, which is kind of what I always feel that it's a little bit lacking in certain other products that are available that do the same sort of thing. I mean, even with EQ matching and all that, it doesn't really quite kind of do it for me. This sounds like and feels like a real amp, so that's kind of why I use it, but it's just more convenient than, you know, lugging valve gear everywhere and having like a million pedals, you know. Cool. Alright.
Have you ever liked to use a looper pedal in a live performance?
I've never done it, but yeah, that's not to say I never will. I don't really know how they work actually. I think I've used one maybe once around the mate's house, just sort of jamming and that, but I know some people do some really amazing stuff with that kind of thing. So I've got one of those Ditto things actually.
Yeah, the basic ones.
Yeah. And it's still in the packaging. I bought it 3 years ago from Manchester and I never used it.
You just press it on and press it off. That's it.
Alright, I'll give it a go then. Thanks. You learn something new every day. Right.
One thing just to clarify, the picking, going back to picking again, just
Mhm.
quickly, is there ever any economy picking techniques used? You know, you're talking about starting on upstrokes, for example.
There is, yeah.
So, like when you're going between strings and you're
I forgot to mention
starting
that.
on upstroke, does that mean that you're then still using alternate picking to move up to the next string?
It depends because I don't really use it in its sort of full capacity. I only use it in 5-note groupings. I can't find another application for economy picking other than being able to sort of do this. So what I'm doing is like up, down, up, and then another upstroke. That kind of thing. So it's more economy picking in isolation rather than using it over a whole scale. So I guess I'd probably just do something like that, but again it's repeating that same 5-note lick but just over all the strings. Yeah, so
It's a matter of sort of getting comfortable with using an upstroke, start when necessary, downstroke when necessary, and economy picking.
I can't economy pick going the other way. Yeah, it's just a massive struggle for me that when you can just do that, you know what I mean? So it has its uses, but I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like for me it has like a massive value apart from say some of the things that I just mentioned. But I do sit there and practice it, but it's one of those things I've struggled with, and you know, like I was saying earlier, I don't really ponder too much on my weaknesses, you know, because does anyone really care if I can do economy picking to write a song and put it out there? Not really. So as long as it's something that I'm into and I can feel like I can get some power out of the guitar, then yeah, that's sort of more what I'm drawn to.
So when you're saying you're more comfortable starting on an upstroke.
Yeah.
You're still using in three notes per string grouping. You'd still, when you switch up a string, you'd still effectively be alternate picking.
Well,
Not just starting on an upstroke.
yeah, well, I mean, like I say, if it starts on 3 notes per string, then I'll be on a downstroke for the whole thing. So it's like... That's kind of why I like those patterns, because then it means that your pick is starting on the same kind of pick stroke every time you move strings. I mean, the other thing that I found a good use for like upstroke picking was pedal toning. You know, that kind of thing. I always find that my downstroke is way weaker than my up. So if I swap the picking around, you know, it becomes. It's just a weird thing. You just switch the picking around, and all of a sudden it kind of opens up this whole thing that you could suddenly do where you couldn't do before. So they're useful things to find out, definitely, if you can, if you're lucky enough to. All right, I'm gonna try and get through this last song before my battery dies, and then I'll let you go about your daily lives. Okay, thanks very much. I just want to thank the guys at Epsom for looking after me, plying me with beer and Monster Energy drink to wake me up, and also you guys for coming down and spending time with me and listening to all my bollocks that I've got to say. So thanks for sticking around. Sorry, a couple of things. I've actually the first clinic. I've not got any picks, but I've got some CDs. So if you guys like some of this music and you fancy picking one up, then you can get one off me today. If you want to have a jam on this guitar and see what it feels like and stuff like that, and moan about how high the action is, because a lot of people go, "Wow, you play with a really high action." But for me, I don't know, it feels normal. But maybe I'm doing something wrong. I don't know. So yeah, if you want to come and jam on this or whatever, then feel free.
You just
So yeah.
made our text day, he talks about high action all the time.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Way better tone.
Pete,
Like, obviously, if
Pete
you-
Irving,
You
he's
what?
got a massive high action.
Has he?
He reckons
Yeah.
it's a better sound.
It is. It's a way better tone. Like if your strings are too close.
He says it's harder, but it's a better sound.
It is hard, yeah, but I mean, it was same with the sort of like picking thing again, just kind of going back to that. For me, it's like, I feel like my left hand moves faster than my right hand, so in order to kind of slow that down a little bit and sync them both together, I always feel that it's more precise when I've got a slightly higher action. I can play the guitar a bit harder and both my hands in sync with each other. If I find that the guitar's got low action, I just feel like I'm not touching anything, like it just feels like nothing. And to me, it always makes me struggle a little bit. And plus the fact the tone is always way better with higher action. And if you get most people put their EMG pickups right next to the strings as well, which is a big no-no. Most people think that they've got a lower magnetic output than normal pickups, but that's actually not true. They're actually higher, so what it does is it also kills the resonance, because if you've got a magnet here and then you've got a bit of moving metal, it's gonna stop that vibration from happening, so it kind of kills your sustain. So yeah, high action and lowering your pickups will give you a way better tone every day, all day long. All right, well with that bombshell, I'm going to finish. So anyway, thanks everyone for coming, and I'm going to hand you over to whoever's going to take over. Is it you?
Yeah, why not?
All right, cool. Roll some music. Cool.
Thanks for coming down tonight. Tonight we have brought down quite a large collection of ESP Japanese guitars.